Hiya, it's Deputy Prime Minister, proud Northerner, Basic Instinct enthusiast and now fourth sexiest woman in the UK, Angela Rayner, and welcome to another no-brainer with Angela Rayner. Well, I have to say, I'm not a very happy chappy. I am supposed to be on my holidays right now. I had just reserved the most perfectly placed sun lounger, about to dip me trotters in the pool. I've opened up a nice cold tin, and I was considering maybe thinking about reading a book. But instead, I've been inundated with loads of messages saying that the press are running loads of negative stories about us Labours. So I'm going to have to address some of this, because the amount of misinformation that's being peddled by the far-right adjacent media is off the charts. So I'm going to have to deal with it. Not impressed. So some of you will know that the Vice President of the United States of America, JD Vance, is on his holidays in the UK. He's decided to go to the Cotswolds. And while he was here, he's had a few meetings with some very unimportant political people. And also our David, who was obviously a very, very, very important political person. And it was a very productive meeting. They had a lovely chat. They looked so comfortable together, chatting, and like they got along like an absolute house on fire. It was fantastic. And then afterwards, our David said to JD Vance, listen, I know you're from like the Midwest and you like a bit of hunting, shooting and fishing. How's about we go fishing? And he said, I didn't know you went fishing. He said, I don't. I just thought it might be something that you might like to do. And so he said, I would love to do that. We could catch some fish for dinner. That would be very nice. So off they went, and he said to our David, what sort of fish do you like to eat? He said, well, whatever I can find at the chippy, really. He says, what do you usually eat when you go to the chippy? And he said, Savoy and chips usually. But anyway, our David didn't catch any fish, but JD Vance caught a load of fish, and they had a lovely time. And you would think that the press would focus on that side of the story. Instead, they decided to run with our David not getting a licence before they went fishing together, because as you know, with everything in the UK, you've got to have a licence before you do it, and we are very, very keen to keep pushing that. Sadly, our David didn't realise. He tried to get one retrospectively, and that didn't work either, and so he's in a spot of bother, which no doubt we will smooth over, because that's what us Labours do. We're very good at smoothing over things that could potentially get us into a spot of bother. Speaking of which, our Ricky has been in court this week, because as you know, he said a few unfortunate things in front of a bunch of people last year when he was feeling a little bit emotional, and he got into trouble for it. He got charged, and then he got a court date, and then they delayed the court date because he pleaded not guilty. And anyway, he's had his time in court, and a lot of sad things came out. He was bullied at school, and he's easily triggered by it. He had to do PE in his wife once, so there's a lot of trauma with our Ricky, and I think people realised that, and they went easy on him, and in the end they realised that he probably didn't say anything that bad, really. I don't think what he said was particular. I'm not across the details of it, so I don't know exactly what it was that he did say, but he's been found not guilty anyway, and that's a brilliant result for our Ricky. Labour through and through, so we're very, very happy. It's a positive, so well done to our Ricky. But of course, the far-right adjacent media are not happy, because they keep talking about some woman called Lucy. I don't know what to turn that. Lucy somebody, and comparing it to that. And as far as I know, I mean, I'm not fully across the details of it, but she said something very, very unpleasant on X, and you can't, as you all know, you can't be saying unpleasant things on X, because it can have real world consequences for people. It can destroy lives. So she obviously had to be dealt with, and she's in prison for that, which was probably the right call to make. As I say, I'm not across the details of that particular case. I don't really know exactly everything, but of course the far-right adjacent media have got to make it all about them, haven't they, instead of focusing on the positives. That our Ricky has been through a very, very tough time, and he deserves to be found not guilty. So there you go, but they've got to frame it in a negative way, haven't they, because that's what they do. They should be focusing on the positives, like our Keir meeting up with his favourite Ukrainian lad our wonderful President Zelensky, and, you know, they should be focusing on things like that. But no, they've got to focus on all of the negatives, and that is just what the far right adjacent media does. And that's why I've got to sit here talking about it instead of getting on with it. I've got enough going on. I've got to build I've got a lot of allotments to bulldoze over so I can build more houses. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to do that whilst I'm having a tin and relaxing by the pool. But no, you lot have got to start talking absolute nonsense, so I've got to come on and deal with it all. Anyway, it doesn't matter what you say, and it doesn't matter what you do. Us Labours are going to continue to go from strength to strength. I'll see you again on another No-Brainer with Angela Rayner.